Not when I'm talking.
Correct. Okay, I'm letting everybody in. Hold on. Okay.
National anthem?
Yep.
Oh, no, that's something else.
Good.
Okay?
Yep.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
I think you're all.
More coming.
Okay. Would you all like to sit? And if you wish to to ask a question or to speak during public comment, will you please sign in?
Yes, I'll do that. That's what I was doing right now. You don't have to hold it out for me. I'm just finishing those.
Okay. All right. First of all, I need to explain at the beginning of today's meeting why all salaries on the budget are blacked out. They're blacked out quite simply, not all salaries, but 90% of salaries are blacked out. And that is simply because we're negotiating with the unions. We're negotiating new contracts with the unions. And quite honestly, it would make somewhat of a joke of our positions if we put figures in. So the actual discussion regarding those figures will be conducted in executive session. Next, the public comment period, I plan to delay until the end of the meeting so that people have had everything on this. You'll notice there is no old business on this agenda. It's all new business. Therefore, it is reasonable to assume that most people do not already have the details of those items, and it would make sense for them to comment after they have the details. Next, COVID. To update on the number of infections in our town and our neighbors, Lewisboro has 19, North Salem has 2, Poundridge 4, Bedford 24, and Somers 36. We're beginning to get slowly somewhat in line with our populations. More important in my mind for the future is the vaccination rate. We have a 77% vaccination rate in the South Salem Postal District, 10590. We have a 99% vaccination rate in Cross River, an 87% vaccination rate in Golden's Bridge, and a 94% in Walkabout.
Those statistics are from Westchester County.
Yes. They're the statistics circulated by Westchester County. I am desperately anxious to get the South Salem zip code up to 80%. We've only got 3 more points to go. And as soon as we get there, the mask mandate will disappear. And I'm hopeful that we will do that before our next meeting. Consent agenda, I would like to move approval to the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of the September 13th meeting and monthly reports for September for the building and police department. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Peter, just one, we didn't do the pledge.
Oh,
Start the meeting.
thanks. Let us stand and do the pledge. And we do have a flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm sorry, I remembered at the board meeting I was at this morning, but apparently my memory doesn't last this long. John, or did he leave?
No, he's back there.
Ah. John, do you want to say what you would like us to agree to, or do you want me to? Go ahead. The 11th is Veterans Day, as I'm sure you all know. At 9:30, the veterans plan a pickup of cookies and things beginning at the Townhouse Circle. And at 11 o'clock, they plan a ceremony underneath the new flag. This will go on. I would like, there is no, it is a town holiday. So there is no reason, quite honestly, for the Veterans Committee there is no reason to prevent the Veterans Committee taking over the outside of the townhouse. Any questions?
No need for resolution or anything?
Yeah, I would like a resolution, but
Okay.
I'll make a resolution. And I would like a second.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye.
November,
November
it's a
11th.
Thursday, is it?
Yes.
Do you want to go in? Leo?
Sure.
Leo or Tony, do you want to help us on the
Sure. So,
discussion of Oak Ridge Water District upgrade?
so we had couple, 3 weeks ago, the WEF grant was made available. The actual application process for the grant was made available. And we had a couple of outstanding items, which includes this public interest order and the bond resolution. We had been holding off on the bond resolution until we had confirmation that it wouldn't impact the federal grants that we have applied for. We received that confirmation Thursday or Friday when we were on the phone with Congressman Maloney's office. So in order to meet the deadline to be able to apply for the WEA grant, we had to pass the bond resolution at tonight's meeting. So that's why it was added to the agenda.
I would like a resolution authorizing the issuance of these bonds. I propose that we adopt it. Do I have a second?
We first adopt the order that's derived from the public interest.
Oh, all right.
Public interest order.
And then you can do the borrowing authorization right after that.
And you need a roll call as well.
Okay, I would like to propose that we adopt a resolution that the Oak Ridge Water District upgrade project borrowing is in the public interest. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I think, could you just, I think it's good overview. We just read that couple of sentences from the public interest order. Just give a one paragraph overview so everybody's aware of what we're doing.
All right, whereas the town board of the town of Lewisboro, Westchester, New York, has had under consideration the increase and improvement of the facilities of the Oak Ridge Water District in said town, consisting of the design and construction of an expansion to the water treatment plant to remove certain chemicals, generally known as PFAS, including improvements to the booster pumps, treatment chemicals, valves, meters, and other appurtenances, and related and incidental improvements and expenses in connection therewith at a maximum estimated cost of $1,939,500.
Nicely done. Thank you.
Is that what you wanted? The tap dance that we are doing is what Tony mentioned beforehand. We are trying to get, or the House of Representatives has already passed in its Appropriations Committee a commitment to give Oak Ridge $1,800,000. But if we get that money from somewhere else, that 1,800 disappears. That 1,800,000 disappears. So we're trying to go right up to the jump, but not actually take the jump, so that we can hopefully get Sean Patrick Maloney's grant to us. But if for some reason that falls through, we need to pursue a grant and a loan from the state.
And in addition, we have a separate grant application in through Senator Schumer's office as well. So hopefully either one or both of those will hit.
So it's somewhat of a juggling act, and I'm hopeful we will be successful. The easiest one, quite simply, is if Sean Patrick Maloney comes through with the 1.8 million. Not if he comes through, but if the Senate agrees with with what's coming up in the budget from the House of Representatives.
So we left off at the public interest vote, I think.
Yeah. Now, the next thing is,
So we haven't voted yet.
oh, we haven't?
No.
No, it's supposed to be a roll.
Yeah.
Roll call.
Oh, we need a roll call vote. Jane,
Yay.
Dan,
Yes.
myself, yes. Tony,
Yes.
Rich,
Aye.
all in favor.
Aye.
I'd like to propose a resolution authorizing the issuance of said bonds.
Roll call?
Yes. Jane,
Yes.
Second.
oh, second, Dan. Jane,
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Tony,
Yes.
Rich,
Yes.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to discuss and pass a resolution to recognize the United Public Service Employees Union, commonly referred to as UPSU, as the exclusive bargaining representative for all of the town of Lewisboro Maintenance and Parks Department employees. A little piece of background. Some years ago, certainly before I became supervisor, we recognized UPSU as the bargaining representative for highway and the municipal workers union, which consisted mainly of employees who worked in building, planning, and in fact, the people who work in this building. At that time, the maintenance workers and those who worked in the parks decided that they did not wish to be represented by a union. They have now changed their mind and wish to be represented by a union. And they have asked UPSU to be that union. UPSU has agreed, and it's up to us to recognize that agreement. Do I have a second?
Okay, second.
Discussion.
Greg, what's the significance of us adopting the resolution?
We recognize the bargaining unit for the purposes of reaching a contract with these employees, whereas right now they don't have a designated representative to do that.
Any more discussion?
No.
Do I have a second?
I think Tony said second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to move on, Dana, to the Parks and Recreation 2022 requested budget. Would you like to discuss that?
Okay,
Talk to us about it?
first and foremost, I want to breaking news here. Peter Parsons just got accepted into the Senior Hall of Fame for 2021. So Peter will be put into the Westchester County Hall of Fame for senior adults come December.
What worries me is not the Hall of Fame, but the word senior.
Yes.
I had hoped to be put into the Children's Hall of Fame.
Hit it hard.
But I do appreciate, Tony was instrumental, Mary helped out, so it was a group effort and I appreciate everyone's effort to get Peter nominated. So now we'll go on to more mundane stuff of budgets. So in front of you is our 2022 budget. Just for some history, the 2020 budget was exactly half of my 2019 budget, both in expenses and in revenues. So there is a large jump coming into 2022 as we anticipate returning back to normal. Yes,
I have a
Tony,
question. Do you want me to share this on Zoom so folks at home can see it?
your call, not mine.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure, why not?
that's the 13-page document, right, that you,
Sent you, yes.
okay.
So with revenues, I'm confident, very confident that we can reach back up to $1 million mark in 2022. As of today, our revenue for 2021 is $814,023.49, which is a huge jump up from 2020, which was only about 300 and something. There will be some room for finagling to go into the upwards motion for revenue. I play it conservative, so I know I can reach my goal, but I know Supervisor Parsons and I spoke about possibly raising that up a little bit higher. I won't be as confident, but I'll be confident for 1 million.
Dana, do you have handy the 2019 revenue figure?
That's right.
Is
Right
that,
here. 2019 actual was 1,105,913.
okay, so you think that 2022 be able to get to that?
Yeah, I mean, as we all have just witnessed, there's been a huge housing boom in town. We have a lot of new families, a lot of young children. So I'm confident, but I know I will definitely make the 1 million mark. You going up higher, I think we could be challenged to meet it. I just like to do what I'm confident about. Fireworks sponsorships, I am not as confident that we'll get back to 20,000, especially taking 2 years off. We don't know how businesses are going to recover in 2022. I've heard from some friends at the library fair that their sponsorship was down 6,000 or 7,000 this year. So, and you folks will not be running next year. So I will not have an election to count on to help boast the kitty for the sponsorship. So I bring it down to 15. You could challenge, but I'm not as confident knowing that the library went first and they haven't reached their goal. But those are the revenues. For the expenses, I think the biggest issue is going to be staffing for 2022. We'll all be kidding ourselves if we think we can fill all our part-time and seasonal positions in 2022, especially if we don't offer competitive salaries. If we can't fill these positions, we cannot provide the residents with what they want and deserve and even maintain what we're doing. We noticed this year, especially with the part-time seasonal staff, it might be a generational thing too, because I think a lot of these young adults are not going out to work as much as maybe our generations did, because they have sports camps to go to for scholarships. They have wonderful experiences being offered to do during the summer. They can continue their education or internships during the summer. So I really am sort of begging to try to make the pool and camp salaries more competitive, especially now that minimum wage will be going up to $15 an hour in January. And I still think we'll be having a worse staff shortage next year. Especially, think about this too. The housing market flipped. The high school age kids, there's not as many of them as there are going to be as younger kids. So there'll be a more competitive market to try to get those high school and college kids to come work for any recreational facility. And some of these jobs that we hire for are tough. Lifeguarding is not easy. They're doing things that sometimes adults might have a hard time dealing with. Injuries out at the pool, arguments. There's been a few adults that have had confrontations out at the pool, and we're asking our young adults to manage this and for little pay. So if there's anything we could do to stay competitive and raise the rates, I'm all for it. Talking about staff, I am requesting a assistant superintendent for our department. We don't have a number 2, as some other departments in town do. I'm starting to feel my age.
Well, nonsense.
And I'm giving up. I mean, this month alone, I am pretty much donating 25 to 30 hours of volunteer work on weekends to cover programs. And to have somebody share that with, so that it doesn't all land on my shoulders, that I can go away on vacation without, I mean, this weekend I was away and I got 6 phone calls. So it's not a vacation really. So I'm begging for, we didn't fill the rec assistant job. So I'm asking for the rec assistant job to be put into an assistant superintendent position, somebody with recreation experience. I am anticipating 2 retirements in my office and within about 3 years, if not less. So having somebody in there as a foundation to help build on the loss we'll have with the retirements will be great as well. The office manager can officially max out in January, and the senior coordinator, I think she has 2 to go. Not that they've made their intentions publicly known, but just knowing the clock and will make me feel that way. While we're talking about full-time staff, I truly cannot thank my staff enough for what they did this past year and a half during COVID. We were one of the first departments open to the public in order to ensure that residents can get pool passes last year and register for camp and do programming. We changed on a dime when Peter said, can you get seniors their COVID shots? Seniors turned into not only seniors, but town residents. We believe we've gotten at least 75 to 100 residents vaccines, and we also got town employees vaccines when they couldn't. So anything that was asked of us, we all stepped up and did. We never complained. We opened our office. We were fearful for our health, but none of us told you any of it. And we were the first department as a whole to get vaccinated. I mean, some of it was because we were running the learning lot. So put that into consideration. I can't help thank my staff enough for all that they did during COVID and reinventing themselves and really being a leader in Westchester County. We were the only municipality to offer a remote learning center for children. Not one municipality did. We were one of a third of day camps running in 2020, as well as a third of municipal town pools running. Most municipalities did not do much during the pandemic. So I cannot thank my staff enough for putting their health in risk during this. And thankfully, knock on wood, we didn't have one outbreak in our programs, in our facilities, or in our office. So that the only other things we're asking for a little bit of extra money in the brochure line now with the departure of our rec assistant, who was a computer guru. None of us have the capability of making the winter brochure attractive for online distribution. We can put things up, but we can't make it look great in a PDF. So we are asking for a little bit of money in the brochure line. The parks maintenance worker line. We have now 2 entry-level parks groundkeepers and a part-time consultant coming out of that line in hopes that the training of one of the 2 maintenance workers could step up into a foreman position later down the road.
And which page are you?
Oh, now I'm on the parks page. I was really just reading off my memo.
Your notes, okay.
Yeah, but I can go back and look at it.
Page 39 is the,
So I'm on page 36.
oh, okay. So I'm following you.
The equipment line in the parks has jumped up tremendously because we're asking to become more efficient with a ride-on lawnmower. We're currently using a tractor and a walk behind, which we waste a lot of time switching between the 2, and a ride-along can do it all in a lot of quicker amount of time because we do mow and maintain all of Town Park. And right now it's with 1 worker. So we're asking, well, depending on what you'd like to give, I'll get a better quote tomorrow. Thanks to Councilman Welsh for giving me an outlet to go check out a battery powered mower. The gas mower we figured was 14.5. We estimated a battery powered be 21, but I'll find a more definite.
Yeah, and I think
Costs.
they should, at least the manufacturer has these kind of life cycle analysis, because I think it's important to realize that they're lower maintenance and all the rest of this. So you take the fully amortized cost, it's the difference is reduced from what it looks like on the price of it. So
I'm asking for more in the tree lines. Anyone perusing social media knows that people are pointing those out. So I don't have enough to take care of what's out there. So we're asking for more money, especially due to these dead ash trees that we're getting. I spoke about the counselors, that we do need to be more competitive with minimum wage jumping to $15. And we do anticipate teen treks returning in 2022, which hasn't happened for 2 summers now. So there's a big jump. But again, with the jump of expenses, we also anticipate a jump with revenues, and we will not be running anything that is not cost effective for the town. There's a lot of pool salary lines jumping up to stay competitive. As we saw this summer, there was a staff shortage across the country with lifeguards. We still anticipate that in 2022. As I was telling Peter earlier, the county was offering up to $20 an hour for county pool facilities, and we can't compete with that, but we'd like to stay at least competitive and try to keep the local kids local and working for us. So we are asking for more money in all of those staff lines up at the pool. We are asking for some new pool equipment, chemical controls that can be controlled remotely, so we avoid problems that we've had this past season. A new pool vacuum, and because Councilman Gonzalez's 4th of July event was so popular at the pool, we're adding a special events line to the pool to keep that going because it was a big success and we had the largest gate total that day. So we're asking for a special event line just to fund the family fun days at the pool as well as the 4th of July concert that we offered out there. And don't worry, fireworks will be back. Lewisboro gym rental. That one was added to our budget this year, and it is a tough line for me to work with because not only are we paying rent for that, we are making it back up with programming. We're asking for a supply line included with it, some miscellaneous repairs, and then we need to cover the maintenance of outside as part of the agreement with the school for getting the gym. So that's a big addition to our 2022 line. And then the transportation, oh, yeah, sorry, Tony, I should keep telling you the pages, yes?
Oh, actually, I'm following.
Oh,
this.
okay.
Yeah,
Was
good.
that, those are, I mean, we were renting the gym.
These were all in the budget, but now they're in my budget. Correct, Leo?
Okay. 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 Got it.
Fair enough.
Got it.
And the other concern is the day camp bus drivers. With the driver shortage that we've got, that we're seeing in schools this year, I foresee it continuing in the summer. And the fact that we haven't used bus drivers in the last 2 years, other than 2 last summer, just to get back and forth to the pool. I'm concerned that we might not find the 10 drivers we need to come back for 22 unless we are competitive, because they've all found other jobs in other departments for the summer, this past summer. So we would like to be more competitive with the going rate with the school district to entice them to come back to our camps this summer.
Where do you have the bus line?
It's on page, it's in with the seniors, transportation on page 48. It was 43 in 2019. We left it at 10 to cover this summer's swim shuttles between Onatru, LES, and the town park pool. And the Teen Trailblazers went on 2 trips. So they did take kids off out of Lewisboro for 2 trips where they were the only kids in the facility due to COVID. So now that line would jump up. We're asking for 58.
Dana, can we get part-timers or already school bus drivers to drive for us in the summer?
Well, that's who does.
Yes, I thought so.
So we hire really the part-time school district drivers to drive their buses for us during the summer. We need 10 of them. But they haven't worked now in 2 years, other than 2 last summer, maybe 3 when we had a trip, but the rest of them got part-time gigs for coach buses, for like Royal Coach, school bus, like private entities. And I'm worried that their salaries keep going up, and there's a $6 difference from what the school district offers and what the town offers an hour. So I'm trying to get more in line with the school district so I can entice them to come back and work for us.
Dana, the nutrition program, that's the
Meals on Wheels that we do with Somers, North Salem,
Right.
Pound Ridge.
And the bus situation will directly impact the attendance at the camp, I assume. I mean, if we
Can't offer
can't.
Well,
No
yeah,
one
right,
cares.
because one great thing about busing is it offers early pickup for kids for working parents. So instead of dropping off at 9, parents might be able to drop off at the bus stop at 8:15.
Right.
So they have a 45-minute start to get to work.
Yeah, that's.
And it also helps with traffic on 35. I mean, the whole point, I believe it was Superintendent Bill Heideprem, who got this moving, was to alleviate the traffic in key spots where commuters are trying to drive. That's it for me, unless you got questions.
Well, there's one sort of overall comment I'd like
Okay.
to make. With the exception of seniors, you run the nearest thing to a business
Yes.
in town.
Well, seniors in parks, we never make up
All
our
right,
park lines with rentals.
I believe that you have, I'm not worried about your expenses. I think you could be considerably more aggressive on the revenue side. I'm convinced on the small thing that you probably can, if we work at it hard enough, get the same sponsorship donations as we've got in the past. I'm convinced that we could add 25% to our basic parks and recreation fees. You're a good bunch of people, and I think you can drive those figures up. If we leave you to yourselves to figure out how. I don't think you should be micromanaged by a committee. I think you should look at how you can build up revenues substantially.
Piggybacking on that point, do we know how our programming fees compare to neighboring municipalities?
Well, I'm laughing and I'll share with you today.
Okay.
The Village of Mount Kisco just did a pool survey on fees. And I mean, honestly, Lewisboro probably has the least amount of commercial tax base in the county compared to, but other than Scarsdale, we're the most expensive pool to join. So I'll let the residents speak for themselves if they want fees raised. You come down to the part where you say, what do you get for your tax dollar? And I mean, the police department is amazing and the highway does what they can with their budget. And I'll do what I can with mine.
Yes, but don't think just in terms of raising fees, but adding events,
And we are. I mean,
adding
we've been
activities.
creative during COVID.
I mean, I got a huge amount of praise on your yoga program the other day.
Yes, and yoga, I mean, God bless the gym because now yoga's moved in there and we can take more people. Because we've
Great.
always had a wait list for yoga.
That's one way of increasing your revenue. Not exactly by $250,000 just on that,
No,
but
but pickleball's raising revenue too, and I never thought that would happen.
I'm just convinced that we should capitalize on the enthusiasm you've shown during COVID to run more programs and to create more revenue via the new programs. Not necessarily to increase the pool to 2,000 a year, but
I mean, we're lucky because we are in a remote part of the county that we don't compete with a lot of boys and girls clubs or
yes, I understand.
YMCA's.
In the past, you've given us some indication of like the net, like, total revenue versus, and a comparison to other communities in terms of the,
Right, your the
amount
rate of return.
amount of subsidy, I guess you could say, is another flip side of that, right? And we were always,
We were at 70, we were the highest one in Westchester County. Our rate of return with expenses and versus revenue was 76%.
and the lowest subsidy there.
And the lowest was like White Plains, I believe, or Yonkers at 18%.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to know, that would be another measure to
More than
See
happy
where
to
we-
find that out for
With
you.
this
see where we
budget
are.
is suggesting that we spend about $750,000 more than we take in. That we spend
But I will counter that.
1.75.
I will counter that to say, look at what COVID did.
No,
It put people
no.
outside more.
Okay,
So I mean, and people want great facilities for what they pay.
And for me, it's not a matter of, taking that immediately and drawing conclusions like, oh, we're higher than before, but it's just a way to triangulate and see where that is. And I think it would be interesting. I think it's going to be it's a weird year, right? Because you're coming from
Well,
such a
that's why I
low
didn't-
level to back to, nearly full operation. So I think by nature, it's going to be hard to estimate exactly where we're going to be. And, I think we've got to accept that. But just throwing that out there, that's a measure that at least it provides some grounding for people.
I'm betting.
Okay, so I might be rolling the conversation back a little bit, but I've been wanting to say it for a while, so I'm trying to get it in there. And that what I'm hearing from Dana on the revenue side is that you feel confident about 1 million, but you like to set your bar where you think you can meet it. And what we're asking, and maybe what we expect, is we want to set a higher bar for you and make it 1.25 as a target. That's what I'm hearing. And I also,
Good thing this is on tape.
yes.
So if I don't meet it, we know
That's
why.
right, that's right. And then I know that there's restrictions with COVID and transportation, but that park and play program, I think, was a really great one. And I think it brought in some revenue. I don't know, but I think it was pretty popular. So I would love to see something like that again.
I think you may get a huge wave of enthusiasm next spring when you open an array of programs for people.
We got a huge wave of enthusiasm over the summer.
Yeah, and I think that will make it possible to increase your revenue substantially. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, the pool alone over doubled from last year to this year.
And we have so
And
many
you're
new
probably on
families
track.
in town.
So, and you're probably on track to do, you had the original budget was 535 in fees. You're actually on track to do almost double that.
Mhm.
Yeah, right now we're in a holding pattern because we're still not allowed in the school district. So
Mm.
we're waiting patiently to find out if basketball is a go or not this year.
Right, but as of
Right.
today, you're at 800 and plus thousand.
$814,023.
Dana,
you've
I'm
been trying to ask a
prepared to
I was just,
Oh, sorry.
walk into the school with a shotgun if necessary.
Oh, we don't want to do that.
All right. To walk into the school and say, for heaven's sake, get off the pot and decide what you want to do.
Well, right. And the hard thing is they're allowing out of town schools in to participate now.
I know.
So what's the difference between another school coming in and our own residents using the gyms? Rich, sorry, you keep wanting to
worries.
ask something.
no, I just have a couple of questions. This is my first go around budgetary
Sure.
process wise. As far as seasonal help, do we do anything by way of any benefits that we give to seasonal employees to help retention as far as being able to partake in other words, they get to use the pool at any kind of discount, something like that?
Well, obviously the lifeguards can use it whenever they would like. We do write great, wonderful college recommendations and job references.
Okay.
But as far as no benefits for seasonal part-time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, anything we could do as far as what to avail themselves of something that, that wouldn't be a cost to take advantage of something in town is what I was getting at. That may be to help retention if to offset if we're at a deficit as far as the competitive wage that we're talking about, just as a thought. I don't know if we do it or it's possible, but that was one thought. Is there anything technologically that you're requesting that might help productivity of the department that's in the budget request? No, I mean, it's a,
No. No,
okay.
we're taking credit cards. We're doing well with the website and the constant contacts. Right now, I unfortunately think it's a monetary incentive.
Right. Okay. And last, as far as, and I don't know, I know it's been an issue. So the rental, we have to pay money to the school district to rent what?
Everything at LES.
Everything here.
Yes.
And is there anything precluding legally or otherwise trying to come up with some bartering arrangement between us and the school district? It just bothers me the fact that we have to pay the school district, which is where we pay most, 6/7 of our local tax burden, so that we can pay that. So the town, who has, a budget that's not even 1/10 of the school district, there's nothing precluding coming up with some kind of bartering arrangement with the school district as far as sharing facilities, is there? Just that they're not doing it.
Please take it on. We've all given it a go. I don't know. Have you given it a go, Dan?
I haven't had any personal offerings, but.
Peter
we
and I
talked-
and Tony have all given, I encourage.
Hopefully our members of the Board of Education could hear this point and maybe take that up.
We can always bring it up again.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate everything you do, Dana, for our community.
Thanks, Rich.
Okay,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dana.
okay. Do people have comments on the total budget at the moment?
Well, as I understand it, Leo was explaining to me, our total budget. Oh,
Oh,
so
sorry,
Yes, Cindy's.
Cindy, I'm sorry.
Cindy. Why don't you take the floor and talk about the library?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Leo.
And this document I don't have, Cindy, right? So I can't share it on Zoom.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
We got it together kind of late. It's like herding cats, getting the finance committee for the board together. And they just got together this afternoon. And actually, the budget that I've given you tonight of the library, the whole library board has not yet reviewed it. So it is still tentative. But I got the permission of the finance committee to come to talk to you about it tonight. And of course, at the top of the packet that I've given you is a reminder of the list from the Westchester Library System, which lists all the libraries in Westchester, all 38 of the libraries, and in rank order of local public support appropriated per capita. And as I've shown you in previous years, and it continues to be true, Lewisboro is at the very bottom of the list, number 38. With public support per capita of its library of $33.94.
That's considerably higher than when I showed the same table.
Yes, back when you were library board president.
Yes.
However, Peter, since that time, all the other libraries have risen a great deal as well. I mean, just, highlighting Katona, they get 3 times as much money per capita as we do. And also some much poorer municipalities and districts do as well. I do want to remind you that in Westchester County, there are 9 association libraries. We are an association library. We are a private 501c3 organization, and we sign a contract with the town annually to deliver library services to the town. We're not a municipal library. We're not a department of the town. We're not a special library district. And as such, at the moment, I think the town is giving us about 71% of our annual operating budget. It's usually, the average is usually about 75%. Over the years, it's dipped higher, it's dipped lower. At the moment, it's about 71%. So we come to you every year with our request for the amount of money that you will help to fund the library for the next year. And so I have 2 things, and if you want to look at them both at the same time, I have a highlight of our request, and I also have our budget. past few years, I've shown you a budget that the library board has put together that has, on most of the budget lines, has remained flat and in some cases been taken down. That is no longer possible for this year. All of the costs are going up. Our insurance costs are going up. Our supply costs, book costs, as I'm sure you're aware, with the lack of toilet paper on the shelves, there is a big paper shortage, which is also affecting books and the price of books as well, and the availability of books going forward. Our payroll company is asking for more money. Utilities have gone up for us. Everything is going up. And however, we are just asking for support, increased support this year for two areas in particular. And I have highlighted them in yellow. And as Dana has mentioned, this is the fifth and final year that New York State is mandating a minimum wage increase. So as another $1, December 31st is per hour is being required. As an association library, we are considered in the category of having to pay increased, the minimum wage increase applies to us. And our salaries for our hourly clerks are a little bit higher than minimum wage. So we need to add that $1 to stay above it and not right at the minimum wage. Also for the same reason that Dana mentioned, you know, there's a lot of increased competition for employees out there and you have to remain competitive. So the cost of the $1 per hour for all of our hourly employees for 1 year is $5,000 and there's $400 in increased payroll taxes. Last year you did grant us that. And our other big cost for next year is it says West Links. That's the Westchester Library System, the system that serves the public libraries in this county. They provide most of our IT services to us. There's been a lot of changes with that, and they are heavily increasing their fee to us by $7,000 or 17%. They're getting new servers. They have increased demands on them for security. I don't know if you're aware, but 2 years ago, they were subject to a ransomware hacking. They were lucky that they ended up not having to pay the ransom, but as a result, a lot of soul searching was done and there's been a lot of improvements and personnel changes at IT and security costs as well, which is obviously being passed on to us as well. However, part of that fee is sorry, just want to get this in front of me here. Part of that fee is that our Wi-Fi equipment is 5-6 years old and it is obsolete this year. So we are replacing through the Westchester Library System our Wi-Fi equipment, the access points, a new server, a new switch, going for increased speed and better service from Optimum for the Wi-Fi as well. And that is rolled into the cost of that $7,000. We are increasing our Wi-Fi access points from 2 to 4 in the building. And one of them will be on the outside, on the back of the building, which will increase the outside Wi-Fi coverage. The other one will be on the front of the building on the interior, but it should extend the coverage better on the outside of the front. This is something that has been very, very much in demand by our town residents, as we've seen this past year. Even during the shutdown, you could see, you know, many people outside the building, and they do appreciate it that that's there and available to them. So that comes down to $12,400. It's a 2.8% increase. I have not included, and the board has not decided on the fact that we really need to increase the salaries somewhat, at least a small percentage for the rest of the employees. As with the town employees, the library employees, except for the minimum wage employees, did not receive an increase last year. Obviously, the cost of living is going up and it's getting harder to hire when somebody leaves. You know, you have to definitely match what's being given in the surrounding areas as well. The library remains relevant in today's world. I know some people are doubtful of that, but one of the ways that we serve the community was during the pandemic shutdown. Many people, town residents, became aware of our digital content and our digital services. Usage of that rose 60%. And people, town residents became aware of it and have continued to use it as a higher rate. But very interestingly enough, the print demand has also remained strong. So as people have come back into the library as we've opened, it's interesting, people still do want print books as well. We have been an attractive place. We have seen also evidence, as Dana has had, many new young families have moved up from the city, finding their way to the library and very enthusiastic, attending our programs. And our teen programs have been popular as well. Let's see, was there anything else I wanted to bring out? I wanted to also bring out that we have increased, if you look at the income statement here, we have committed the library to supplying a 29% increase in our income lines. One way is that we've found with the gifts and contributions that we're trying to be as realistic as possible and matching what we think we can definitely get. In the past, we have underestimated that on the budget because, of course, you never know whether people are going to make those donations or not. But we think that that's a realistic figure based on what we received annually in the past few years. Unfortunately, with the library fair, even though we had such a wonderful fair, was a great community event, was so well attended. We had such a beautiful day. By many measures, it was very successful. However, even though we don't have the absolute final figure, I doubt that we're going to have made more than 35,000 net profit as compared to 47,000 net profit for 2019. And there were several reasons for that. One was corporate sponsorship was way down. Our very generous corporate sponsors in the past happened to be companies that were severely affected by the pandemic and were unable to support us for that. Tents and tables were a lot more expensive as well. Those tents and tables companies told us that they had trouble hiring employees, so they increased their salaries, and that was passed on to everybody who rented those things, as well as increased competition for them for the many outdoor weddings and outdoor events and outdoor charitable events that happened as well. In fact, in some cases, up until the very last minute, we weren't even sure that we were going to get the equipment that we needed. And also, we were not able to have the toy sale this year for a variety of reasons. But that all made that the fair, we cannot count. We're going to have to take the estimate down for the fair next year. Hopefully things will improve, but you can't always count on that. And one of the other things that we've done is this past year and during the pandemic, we reduced our hours. We used to be open 7 days a week. This year, we're only open 6 days a week, and we eliminated the evening hours. And with the budget the way it is, I do not think that we're going to be able to restore those in 2022. I'm very sad about that, but not sure we're going to be able to do that. Now, if you look down at the bottom line at the net income, you see that this budget is way out of balance, okay? It's in the red by about $60,000. We do that every year, hoping that by the end of the year, the majority of our fundraising dollars comes in the last quarter of the year. And we hope that we can make that back. Some years we do, some years we don't. The majority of the years in the past 6 or 7 years, we've been short by $10,000, $12,000, $14,000. I do have to say, though, we were very lucky last year to end up in the black for 2 reasons. One was that we were able to get the PPP money from the federal government. So that helped us out. And we received a very generous one-time donation of $30,000. Another thing we can't always, depend on from year to year. And that's why that is like that as well. And I think that's all I wanted to say. Do you have any questions about the budget or any of this?
No, a lot of these things are just hard for us. They're just going up.
Yep.
you know.
It's very difficult.
Cindy, I have one question on the West Links. You said that
Yes.
the county is provide or somehow involved with that?
It's actually not the county.
It's not the county.
No, it's just the Westchester Library System.
That's
Actually,
my
it-
fault. I keep on saying county.
I know, I corrected
Okay.
him this afternoon too.
Yeah.
Because it's got the same name. It's,
Right, right.
it's, yeah, it's
Okay.
not. It's funded by the state.
Got it.
And they're also a nonprofit like we are, actually, the library systems in New York.
Okay,
Saying, yes, they're the ones that provide us with most of our IT services.
right. Okay.
So that's an IT investment type of thing for the additional 7,000 with the West Links, which should help us improve for the next, hopefully, several years, right? Hopefully.
Let's hope so, and increase security. That the IT, that total fee pays for, collectively, we're cooperative, and so our interlibrary system, which is the software that runs the circulation system and the acquisition system, the online catalog and all of that thing, is paid for and maintained through this fund that we have there as well. As I said, they're giving us they provide our wireless equipment, also the public computers as well as the staff computers, and security as well. And the digital content. It includes the digital content which we pay for as a cooperative. So Peter had brought up the point about possibly that some of the ARPA funds might go toward paying towards some of those increased Wi-Fi charges. Not sure whether that can definitely happen or not. So at the bottom of the page, I did detail some of that $7,000 is going towards Wi-Fi equipment, support, and the optimum fee.
And
Which
there
I-
were 2,000 other dollars there, wasn't there?
Yes, yeah, that's some of the other things that I mentioned. As well as we're having to pay an electrical contractor to run the wiring for the 2 extra access points.
Mhm.
So at the bottom of the page, you can see what the WLS charges are and what the wiring charge will be for the new 2 access points. So it comes to 8,405.
Mhm.
So Peter had mentioned that is maybe there would be a possibility of that being covered by
By ARPA.
yeah, by the ARPA funds. And so in that case, some of the West Links money would not have to be funded, through the
Right.
operating
Mhm.
cost. Of course, some of it will have to be done.
I'll do my best on that. I
Okay.
can't promise, but I will. The Association of Towns was so guarded, you would have been amazed.
I did, as I explained to Peter today, I was in touch with the director of the Westchester Library System, who was in touch with the directors of the other library systems throughout the state to find out if some of the ARPA money had been used for public libraries around the state, that the money that was funneled through the municipalities and the counties, not the money that came from the federal government to the museum and library, federal funds, that went to the system, didn't come to us, unfortunately. So we did find out that in Orange and Rockland County, their counties are using some of their ARPA funds to fund similar things, broadband infrastructure and wireless type things for their public libraries in their counties. So we know that there is precedent, at least that's what they're also trying to do. So wanted to make sure that that was an option.
Common interest with our neighbors is a good thing.
Yes, yes, yes.
I'll toss it to Greg to find out if I'm breaking the law or not.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy.
Talk about this.
Dave, did you want the stage for a second or not? Or do you want to wait for executive session? Okay. Where did Joe go?
Joe,
Well, if he wants to address the board, yes, but if he doesn't, okay, executive session it is. Does anybody on the board want to say anything more about the budget before we go into executive session? What?
Yeah, Leo, you want to give us you've given us an updated document. Just want to
Yeah.
a quick overview.
Should I go ahead and share that file, Leo? Yeah.
They could follow these excellent budget discussions. Dan and Cindy did excellent jobs with what they wanted to say. Tough act to follow. I'm also wearing this mask is tough for me. Just for, because my glasses fog up. So this is the first iteration of our requested budget. It's somewhat abridged from the norm because of the preface to the budget that Peter discussed, that we're in the throes of negotiations with unions. So many of the lines in this presentation have been hidden. The first part would be, I'll take you to the tax rate schedule. And again, we are in very early stages. This is the requested stage. We have the tentative budget to go through. We have the preliminary budget to go through. And our budget in Westchester does not have to be finalized until December 20th. So we have the better part of 2 months to work on this. As I said, this is the tax rate schedule for the town tax. The town tax only deals with the general fund and the highway fund. It does not include the districts. The districts play a role in the next report we'll go to. This is the summation of the appropriations for both the general fund and the highway fund, and the summation of revenues for, again, both for the general fund and the highway fund. And then as it goes across, left to right, here's the net impact of appropriations less revenue. The current assessed value is the current number from our assessor. The tax rate calculation is the amount raised by taxes divided by the current assessed value, multiplied by 1,000 to get this rate. This column is last year's rates. The final column is the percentage change from the prior year, which is a simple subtraction. This amount from this amount, and that is the difference in percentage change of the two rates. Here's the details of the general fund appropriations and revenues versus last year's numbers and the percentage changes for each of those categories. The net impact, the general fund is showing a net increase of 16.37% of taxes in this stage. The highway fund is showing a 10.088 increase in taxes at this stage. This is the net change for both funds, 963,000. Should try to remember that number. 963,000, which is a 13.442% increase from one year to the next. This 294, as I said, is this year's assessed value versus last year's 293,789,394. There's a difference of 1,093,000. That has an impact in this number. Because the assessed value this year is higher than last year's number, it decreases the percentage change from last year to this year. If the assessed value was the same as last year, this rate change would be 3.72 higher. It would be 13.394 as opposed to 13.022.
And the assessed value is updated each calendar year or not?
Yes. Well, it's updated at this time for this presentation. It may not be the final assessed value that the assessor has by year end.
Okay.
Okay. I should have opened up the conversation by telling you where we are. At the end of 20, our unassigned fund balance for the general fund was 1.7 million. And our unassigned highway fund balance was 806,000. Those numbers are the highest it's been since I've been here.
What was the highway number again?
806.
806. Actually, it's
Highest fund
805,
balance.
885.
Highest reserves we've ever had.
The highest reserves that
No,
have,
I don't
I've
know,
seen.
not that they've ever been, but they've been since Leo and I
past
were
10
here.
years.
A decade.
When I came aboard, the fund balances were in a deficit state.
I would say
A
for the 14 years.
2020, as you know, was COVID. It was a tough year. It was a difficult year. But the two fund balances benefited. There was a great deal of cost control during that time. And we had extremely high amounts of sales tax, mortgage tax, and building receipts. Additionally, we had the sale of the Golden Bridge Community House for about, the sales price was about $473,000. That went directly to the bottom line. That went directly into the fund balance. So all of that activity had an incredible beneficial effect on the general fund's fund balance. The highway fund had reduced costs. Additionally, we moved the funding from the budget for road work, and we borrowed for it. So that, in essence, injected money into their fund balance as well. The rule of thumb to have a comfortable fund balance is you should be holding roughly 2 months worth of expenditures, which equates to about 17% of your expenditures. At this level of appropriations that you see on the screen, 17% for the general fund would be 1,690,000. And 17% for the highway fund would be about 661,000. So for the first time that I've been here, I can raise a thumb up for the rule of thumb because we are within that percentage where one thinks you have a comfortable fund balance. We've never been there before.
We did it. That's been a goal since I've been on the board.
Agreed. Currently, both funds are controlling expenses in accordance to their budgets. And the general fund's overall receipts, talking about mortgage tax, sales tax, building, park and rec, as Dana just expressed, tax penalties, they're running higher than what we estimated. So my assumption is at this point that by the end of the year, the fund balances, certainly for the general fund, in my opinion, unless something happens, will be higher than what they are at the end of last year. So we're in at this point, we're in a pretty strong state. Having said that, there are challenges, as you can see in this budget. There's a lot of things that you may want to revise because I don't think you want to end this process with a 13% tax rate change. So it is challenging. In order to drop that 13 down to 12, we would need to cut about $72,000 of expenses or raise revenue by $72,000. Any questions on this risk report?
The more favorable news as far as the combined fund balance getting to the 2-month level. How does it look as far as future projections? We had some favorable economic news by way of the fund balance in 2021, which are not going to continue in 2022 and 2023? Or how do you see as far as
Well,
next year and the year after?
as I said, the way we're performing thus far in 2021, I would think at the end of 21, the fund balance for the general fund will be higher than what it was at the end of 20. A big portion of the revenue stream is sales tax. If there's a blow in the economy, then those numbers drop. We're quite dependent on a couple of large pieces of revenue: sales tax, mortgage tax. I would think that sales tax for 22, because a couple of years ago in 20, the county increased sales tax by a point. That increase still holds. So I think we will benefit going forward by the sales tax numbers being higher than what they had been in years past. How high they will continue to be, that I don't know. If COVID strikes again and crushes the economy, those numbers go out the window.
Do you have a ballpark idea how much mortgage tax increased, say, 2021 versus 2020 and 2019? In other words, has it been dramatically increased and it's kind of a peak?
Yeah, I can give you numbers. Mortgage tax last year was 732,000. That's 2020. I think in 19, it was around 500,000. Currently, and the way mortgage tax works, you get two receipts. You get one in June, you get one right before we're supposed to close the mortgage, the budget. That comes in December 15th. So currently, we've gotten one receipt out of two. And that one receipt was 638,000. So right with one receipt, we're above what we budgeted for, 600,000.
And
I'm thinking that $1 million in mortgage tax is going to be an easy goal.
And does the second payment reflect activity from the time of the first until that time?
Yeah,
or-
roughly
Okay,
that.
okay.
Right. Any more? So then we can move on. So I said to, try to remember this number 962, because that can help you see what the next report does. And where is that? There we go, tax cap. Rich, you are right. These numbers are very small to see.
You can zoom in if you want.
I can,
Fine.
that's more difficult for me, thanks.
Okay.
So this is the tax cap calculation. The wording is, from the state that you try to remain within 2%. 2% increase from one year to the next. That wording is sometimes incorrect because it's predicated on what the CPI index is. And in the last couple of years, CPI index didn't reach 2%. So you were bound to keep your tax number at that lower level.
Of
This
course,
year-
that's crazy. They're way off in that.
This year, however,
Yeah.
the CPI index, and that's in this allowable levy growth factor, was actually 2.15. But again, your levy growth factor can't be more than 2%. So that's what's in this column here. There's another factor called the tax-based growth factor, and the tax-based growth factor is developed by the county, by the state. We have no input in that other than what their measurements is. It's residential, it's other growth. It's something that I can't explain to you or articulate pretty well. But the combination of the two factors is what allows this subtotal number. So you multiply last year's tax levy by the combination of these two factors, and this is the level that your 2% tax cap is compared to.
Do you know what that comes to in just simple percent terms, like effectively?
Yeah, it's about 2.1%, something like that.
Okay, that's a little bit more.
In dollar terms, it comes to $171,000 for the town. The town, again, is the general fund and the highway fund, 171,000. So your tax increase, if you were just looking at the town, okey dokey. You think I should try to keep it?
Hey, Joe,
Joel,
should we connect to my laptop?
You can do a hotspot.
I have the spreadsheet here.
It zooms out. Give it one.
Oh, Zoom. Oh,
oh, hold on.
oh, no, wait a minute. Someone, I think it's back on.
Yes, it's kind of going out.
Well, I might as well, continue talking, I guess. But the 2% tax cap is not just based on town tax. It takes into consideration the tax growth of not just the town, but also the districts. So you look at the cumulative change in tax from one year to the next with the town and all the districts. And that dollar amount was 187,000. So in theory, in order to stay within the tax cap, you can't bring your taxes above 187,000 this year. I had said try to.
Could you stop,
Sure.
rewind that a little bit? You're saying with the districts, those are the water districts and all that,
Not the
Well, not the water.
Just the sewer, the
fund,
lighting and the
Wild
sewer.
Oaks Sewer, Oak Ridge Sewer, and Wild Oaks Lighting.
And
The water fund is not a tax entity. Their expenditures are covered by water fees, therefore, so they're excluded
All right, okay.
from the tax. cap calculation.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So I had said, try to remember that number of 692. The difference from taxes from last year, the town tax levy of 7.161 million versus your allowable 7.332 million. That's the difference of 171,000. The growth from the prior schedule in tax was about 963,000. So if you subtract the 171 that you're allowed versus the 963 that you're actually generating, you're over the cap by 791,000. Hey, Joe, what should I do? Should I just cut it out?
Um,
Are you
something-
at least, the spreadsheet's not local to that machine?
No, he logged in.
Okay.
It's work network.
Do you want my
TV timeout.
computer?
Yeah, we'll do
Leo,
it
so
online.
Leo
I
and I can
have
share,
it on here, but it's a matter of,
just so Leo can see it.
Yeah, also Leo can
Yeah.
see it, so that-
you want to,
I couldn't. Am I able to?
yeah, this way you can drive and everyone on Zoom will see you drive. You want to, hold on a second.
Let me just see if I can.
Try logging in again.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna try.
Log back into your other machine.
Say it again.
Should I,
So there is no internet.
Hey, Sean?
There's still no internet.
should I give him a hotspot?
All right, let me
That might
try
help.
this.
That might work for tethering it.
I'm here if anyone needs.
Stay there, man. Don't move.
Unless it's on flash drive Tony's got, you can steal that and look about that.
That's what they're suggesting.
Well, that's what I have here on my screen.
Just-
It's off
Just
his.
off this computer.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's up there right now trying to get it going.
Okay. She's got it.
What do you think?
Oh, I think that's the HDMI port. Look on the other side.
That's what you-
On the other side. Yeah.
All right.
Well done, Sean.
Yes.
So well, the folks at home can't see us. They're Still on mute or should,
No, it's-
no.
oh, it's back.
No, just click stay muted.
Stay muted. Okay. So at this stage, hopefully I completed my thought on what the board can do if they choose to. They can make adjustments at this stage. As I said, the tax department has, over the last several years, has done a terrific job with their tax receipts and their relationship with the residents. At this stage, their revenue number is 277,000 for this year. This is a number that you may consider increasing if you choose to.
Is there any reason to think that that's either anomalous
No.
or
No, it's
that's just what?
last year was 255. The year before that was also excess of 200. It's based on tax liens. So in essence, what this is, it's a charge to the residents for not paying their taxes on time.
Yeah, which we don't hope to see that.
Right, so
Increase.
there's a pro to con, right?
Yeah.
But it's
But it
also,
should be accurate.
it's also predicated on the tax, the department making the receipts, right? So we can leave it as such at this point.
If it's based on liens, then do they kind of have an idea?
Well, the liens are consistent with where they were at this time last year.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe a 250 or something would not be moving, too optimistic.
Right, I would agree with that.
I would be in favor of putting that level in.
You okay with that, Pete?
You'd be in favor of what?
Putting in 250,
250,
sounds like
okay.
that's more in keeping with
Mhm.
with the level that indication.
We're already at 277, right?
Is this working?
You said the sort of lean, the machine leans pretty similar to what it was last year.
There you go. Okay, I can't use the, okay.
Leo, since you have the chart across, can you just generally explain for everybody the difference between requested, tentative, preliminary, and adopted?
Sure, I'll do my best. As I had said, this is a stage where we're in the requested budget stage. The majority of the information contained in this stage comes from the department heads themselves. They are instructing me what they think the year might hold for their departments. There's many other lines in here that the department heads do not play a role in, and I do my best to estimate those numbers. But the information that you'll see, for the most part, is generated from the department heads themselves. This column is a holding place for board adjustments. Those adjustments would be added or subtracted from the requested column that would lead to the tentative budget stage. The tentative budget stage, as I said, needs to be presented to the town clerk by the supervisor on October 30th per Westchester County law. The next stage, though, is somewhat more important. The next stage is the preliminary budget stage. And forgive me, it's that date is sometime in November. Let's imagine that we have numbers now in the preliminary budget stage. And let's imagine that come December 20th, the board cannot come to agree on an adopted budget. If that's the case, and there is no adopted budget. But there needs to be numbers for next year. It would revert to the preliminary budget. The most important column here, other than the adopted budget, is the preliminary budget stage. Once you guys come to grips with those numbers, if you don't make any changes, or if you make subsequent changes from that stage, but you're not in agreement and you don't have a consensus for an adopted budget, the numbers that you agreed to in the preliminary stage will hold. That's the importance. We good?
And then the public hearing is based on that preliminary budget on
Correct,
December 6th.
correct.
Right.
Correct. And then subsequent to the public hearing, then you can finalize your budget.
Right.
The town clerk, as well as the receiver of taxes, town clerk, you know, in my opinion, they do a terrific job. They have a vast volume of transactions to deal with. And they may be small in nature, but they're voluminous in number. And the revenue number is slightly higher than what the budget was for last year. I think, and Janet can correct me, I think the majority of the change stems from the sale of cemetery lots. The town clerk is suggesting that each lot has an increased price over last year. And that increase, that suggested increase is what's causing or is where she thinks the increase can be. Does that kind of make sense, Janet?
That's correct.
Do we have any idea how many we have vacant lots like that are available in town?
How many empty graves and cremation
Mhm.
lots?
Do you have an estimate on that?
Probably 75 left. Once we get down low, then the cemetery commissioner and I were talking, and possibly opening up the middle of the circle and created those into graves.
Going down to, let's just, currently in 2021, the sale of cemetery lots number is 18,000. So that'll tell you where the level is in this year. Building inspector fees. The estimate from the department head is flat to last year's budgeted number. This year, through September, their revenue is 766,000. And last year it was 748,000. So in my humble opinion, there may be room to increase.
So what, give me those numbers again. So
Now
far
it's
this year.
766,000 through September. And last year was 748,000. Now is, you know, I think I wrote today to you. Past results do not guarantee future performance, right? But there is a track record, and the track record is pretty strong. However, it's also dependent on what the community does, because the fees are generated from building permits and things like that. So again, if the economy craters, then those numbers may not be as high as what they had been.
But you might imagine with all the new families moving into town
Yeah,
that
that's a thought.
there would, those would
Yeah.
go up.
That's the thought. And again, everything I say is just my opinion. Do you remember when COVID struck, I sent out an email to the board, the sky was falling. Well, the sky didn't fall. Revenue was much higher than I ever anticipated. What I did know was that we would be able to control expenses. But I didn't anticipate revenue to be as strong as it was. So again, my suggestions, you can take with a grain of salt. Planning board fees, they're running less than budget last year. Budget for this year was 20, they're running about 10, so I dropped their number down to 15.
Building inspector fees, that includes building department, or is that separate?
That's the building department.
That's, okay, so
I mean,
On the
there's,
fees they collect.
The
the
fees they
building
collect.
department, that's just, okay, I'm just with hanging up on the word building inspector.
Oh,
So
okay.
we've gotten in for 2021 from Wilder Walter, or
I don't
no?
think we've received Wilder Bolton yet.
I thought we'd
We-
received some,
we-
but
some.
not, but
Some,
far from
I don't know
all.
how much, but we did receive
Okay.
some. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
so this is the department's estimate. They have some sense at least of those big items that are coming through.
As I said, the 510 that was put in place this year is the same number as last year.
Yeah, it looks an awful lot like it's just the same number. And it just seems to me that,
Now, in all department heads' defense, I'll step back one more time. Revenue is a number that we may not be able to control. So a better position to take when you're putting a budget together is to be conservative on the revenue side and as realistic on the expense side. So in the defense of the department head, he's giving a number that he knows or feels strongly that he can achieve. Just like Dana said, she feels strongly with $1 million. Anything above that, she's less confident in. I'm just saying that based on the track record of the last several years in the building department's receipts, they run higher than 510.
Do you know what it was 2020 and 2019 going?
In 2020, it was 748,000.
And
In 2019, I can get the number.
And this year they're at 766.
right, just want to see what the
Just
trend
like
is
we
last.
did for the other one, right?
Excuse me?
We look like we could make a little adjustment in there right
I'm
now,
thinking
just like
so.
we did for the other one.
I'm thinking so.
Does anyone have a number to suggest?
does this
I'm kind of
include
in
code
favor of that.
enforcement stuff?
Excuse me?
Does this include a code enforcement stuff as well? Or is that there? or is
Let's,
that-
I'll bring you back to last year.
What is 600
Last
a
year-
reasonable adjustment?
Last year, the budget prior to the 510 was $25,000 less, right? When the building department injected for lack of a better term, when they injected the idea of having a part-time code enforcement officer, they increased their expenses by 25. We suggested to them, okay, if you're increasing your expenses by 25, we want you to increase your revenue by 25. So that's how the 510 came to be. The 510 includes an estimate of $25,000 for the code enforcement office. So you can say, okay, in 2022, the 510 only includes $25,000 for the code enforcement office.
For additional collections. And so it's really, it is being done sort of budget to budget here, rather than, again, going back to sort of actuals. And I mean, that's what we're seeing.
So back to what I would, do we want to
Yeah.
put an adjustment in there?
I-
Does 600 sound like a reasonable number to everybody?
I think that's a safe number, 600.
Great.
You good, Pete?
Yes, because there's at least one huge one to go through.
Yeah.
600, that's a 9.
That's a
It's an
mistake.
adjustment.
Sorry,
I
there's
mean,
no
It's
reason
it's
to
an
be.
adjustment. To that in
Yeah, it's
90,000.
below the midpoint of what we've had last 2 years.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Parks and Rec. We, again, there, Dana updated you with, at this stage, they're running $814,000. That's, that's pretty good when you consider that their programs weren't fully operational at the beginning of the year. And at this stage, they pulled in 814,000. And you can see what was budgeted, 535. So on the revenue side, they're a little less than 300,000 above.
Dana, how did the quarters usually break down revenue wise, like between the seasons? Summer is overwhelmingly, yeah.
Summer is definitely our biggest money bringing in between the pool and the day camp. But you also need to realize, we made this money with 98% of outdoor activities. Because we haven't been allowed in the school, we have not been allowed, we haven't been using Cyrus Russell up until the fall. I mean, I think that's amazing. For not using any facilities, but I mean, that's just me, but.
It is. That's why you could probably do more. That's why we could do the 1.25.
But yeah, summer is the most, I would say spring is probably the second most. Fall is big because we get basketball, but right now we don't know if there'll be basketball.
But that's this year, not next year.
Right.
Right.
So you're waiting to hear on the school district, you said, on that?
Plan A and Plan B. Plan A will bring our revenues up. Plan B will bring it up, but not as much.
So I would propose bumping it up by 100,000.
You know my point of view.
Yeah, I agree with Peter.
What's going,
What's your point of view?
do you know what, Dana, do you or Leo know the numbers
No, I
going back
guess
over the last
that was
few
a
years?
challenge to Dana.
Like
Under these
pre-COVID,
enough.
like say 2018, 2019, where were the revenue numbers at?
Leo would know better than me.
I could give you 19.
Okay.
I don't think we ever got over 1.3. But
No, not since I've been here. 19, Park and Rec was 1,106,000. So are we still in agreement to increase by 100?
Yes.
I think that's, well, if you're going back 2019, if it was 1-1, I mean, maybe split the difference. So, I mean,
What between?
Why?
it's a 1-1, if it was 2019, it was 1-1, and you want to put it to 1-1, which was pre-COVID, or maybe a little bit less, maybe put it 75, so be a little room.
I'd go to 1-1 at least.
We know there's risk in the COVID thing,
Mhm.
but that goes across the board.
Yes.
I mean, if it starts kicking in, then we have to look at the whole budget, figure out how to respond to it.
To, I guess to give you more flavor, the difference for Park and Rec with 1 million from last year's budget to this year's budget, when you look at their net, their revenue versus expenses
Right.
from year to year. This year's budget with 1 million is $186,000 more expensive than what it was last year, meaning it's adding $186,000 of taxes to this year's budget more than what it did last year. So if you increase this by 100,000, you're cutting that differential. They're still hitting the budget harder than they did last year, but only to the tune of 86,000.
Mhm.
So if we're good with 100, I'll put 100 in. You
So
can
your
always
overhead
adjust it
increase
if
is
you
almost
choose to.
twice than the revenue increase.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Joe, we just increased your budget.
On the revenue side, not the
Revenue.
expense side.
On the revenue side.
You can close that little window on this side. The X, all the way over, to the right, to the right, to the right, to the right.
Oh, over there.
Yeah, get that out.
Thank you. The other right.
The other right.
Interest. This is, currently I'm under last year's budget or 2021's budget. I kept it at 20 because again, well, I believe our cash balances will be that much higher. And I'm hopeful that interest rates will rise a little bit. So I could drop this number down or leave it as is. Either way, it's not going to impact the budget too much. I'd suggest leaving it at this level, and then as we move further along, I can refine it down if need be.
So I'll bet you that you knocked that figure into a cocked hat.
To a what?
A cocked hat.
If you can find one.
I don't think I've ever done that. Fines and forfeited bail. These are it's the revenue generated from the court. The $100,000 number was influenced by the court not being certain if COVID will come back again. So last year in 20, we were budgeted for 100. I think they came in at 86. But the prior, I'm sorry, they came in at 86 last year. This year, they're running above 100. I think there's room to increase this number as long as there's some confidence that COVID won't shut the courts down again. Again, their number, they didn't feel at the stage when they gave me the numbers that they should take a chance above what their budgeted revenue number was last year.
If COVID shuts the courts down, our expenses go down as well.
Right.
They would
Well,
overtime for.
No.
Not
because-
necessarily so.
Because the state mandated that there be no personnel, no salary reductions for court personnel, including
Even
the
if
judges.
it's like overtime for
Yes, but
police,
that,
maybe?
but that would be certainly the not the lion's share of their expenditure.
What do you think would be a
Just
reasonable
checking.
adjustment?
A lady was right when she started doing this, when we talked about the future of court revenue. It really is very much out of our control.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it's in the judge's control. I think it's really in the control of the state administrative court.
Well, looks like that should just stay with it.
So, yeah, let's leave it. Okay.
Adjust it.
Well, for now.
Well, that was the answer I kept on getting when I.
Well, there is a little bit of control depending on how the judges dispose of certain things and the percentage that goes locally as opposed to not.
Maybe, but let's just leave it.
I kept these numbers as is, other than the SRO. At this stage, the SRO reimbursement comes from the school paying for the expenses of the SRO. Last year, we were budgeted at 40. Currently, we do not have an SRO.
Isn't there a current holdup about that?
I think it's in the hands of the
School
school.
district.
So I'm not estimating at this stage any revenue for the SRO. On the expense side, there's also no expenses estimated for the SRO.
Leo, a question on the rent for the town park and cross-service cell towers. Does that take into consideration the additional carriers that were placed on those two towers?
It does.
Last year.
I would leave it at 80 at this stage. Let me go and look into it more.
Okay.
I think there may be room.
Mhm.
I just mirrored last year's number at 80. And I think at this stage, it's still a good number. If at all, we could raise it. It wouldn't drop.
Did we never got any money for the tower on 684, right?
That's DOT, right? It's DOT. Yeah, it's DOT.
Greg, do you think you can get us some money for the tower? Yeah, I've got a feeling DOT will win that one.
they don't.
So sales tax, again, as I said, we're kind of dependent on these two numbers. Sales tax comes in roughly quarterly. Comes in February, May, August, and November. The February number that we received was for the fourth quarter of the prior year.
Mhm.
So we've really only received 2 quarters worth of sales tax for 21 at this stage.
And those two were roughly the same.
I would say they were roughly the same, but the aggregate is 1.5 million. So at this stage, with 2 quarterly payments, we received 1.5 million.
So if it keeps up, we'll have 3, which is about 400 more. 370.
Well, no,
The
because
county is running 22% higher in sales tax than what they had last year at the same time.
Mhm.
So if that held true, if the annual sales tax was 22% higher than what it had been last year, our number for this year, for 21, will be 3.1 million.
Right.
Mhm.
So we received 2.6 million last year in sales tax. Last year, 2020, was the first year that the additional point in sales tax was put in play. And it was put in play, not in the beginning of the year, but around mid-year. I think.
So you get so you got the rollout of the 1% plus the economy doing
Right.
better post-COVID at the same
Right.
time. Okay.
So I think I said last year we received 2.6 million. This year with 2 receipts, we're at 1.5 million. The county is saying they're running 22% higher than what they did last year. As I said, if that held true, then our number this year would be 3.1 million, which would mean that we're about 500,000 above budget at the end of the year, which leads me to believe that there's some room to increase the sales tax number.
This is the part where we say, well done, Mr. Latimer, right?
Well,
It
It's
certainly
also a
helped the
question-
municipalities.
what, I mean, expenditures have to be in decline, I would think at the moment, because of this incredible backlog of ships sitting in the middle of wherever,
Could be right.
waiting to unload. I mean, we've been trying to buy a couple of things, the Parsons household has been, and we haven't been able to buy a damn thing because they aren't there. No, I haven't been trying to buy an Aston Martin. But no, my wife would like to buy a few things.
So your point is you think there's pent up demand still?
Oh, yes, huge pent up demand, but a complete lack of goods to buy.
So will it be released next year is the question.
I don't know, but
There's sales taxes associated with the fuel sales.
yes,
So fuel prices are going up. So
that could have a beneficial impact.
isn't there something weird about
No.
gasoline tax? That it isn't according to the amount of money, it's according to the amount of gallons? Or were they trying to change it to gallons and they failed?
So does a county share on the gas? Does a county on the gas and we get a piece of that?
Yeah.
And that's through
Our
sales
piece-
tax?
Our piece that we receive from the counties is based on our population. So it doesn't matter if you buy gas
or anything else.
in Lewisboro.
Right, yeah.
It's just a per capita distribution.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Peter, I don't know about the gallons thing that you just.
Okay,
Yeah,
there
I'm not
used to
certain
be
either.
So what,
something
so what do you
about
think
that.
about 275 on that?
2.75?
Yeah.
I think that's, a good estimate.
I can remember arguing with Esterino about it,
Yeah.
and I'm getting nowhere.
What does everybody think about 275 on that?
No, I think that's still pretty conservative.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Okay,
Okay, so what the hell was that?
Now you gotta, you're making it do the math.
137?
Oh, the increase, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, not bad. In my head. So mortgage tax. Mortgage tax, I think I had said, right now, we're above what we had estimated. Right now, we received 638,000. We're having another problem. And last year, we received 732,000, both receipts. But the second receipt was much higher than the first receipt. So that was a trend. But as I had relayed to you earlier today, last year, at the end of the year, was a blowout year. This whole year up to now has been a blowout year. Can we assume the same type of performance next year?
What does Timmy Parsons
Is there
say
some
about that?
exhaustion? I mean, is there inventory that's still there for turnover? I don't know.
What does Timmy think about
I
the
can
real estate
say
market?
that
Where they were for COVID. I don't know.
Houlihan Lawrence is saying, for what it's worth, which is very little, that they anticipate a flattening out.
In 2022?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that this absurd increase we've seen is not likely to continue.
Right.
Flattening means staying at the level we're
Yes,
at.
yes.
Okay.
So if we receive $1 million this year, the thought would be that we,
Receive another million next year. I'm not sure that they're more optimistic than I am.
Yeah.
what's happening?
Joe, should he rejoin? We lost the connection here.
Unless he's got cell service, he's not getting back on.
No?
I've got the meeting running, and that's going to get me work. Cable moves out.
Oh, so if he joins from browser, it's not gonna work? He's not gonna be able to reconnect?
He's going remote. So his,
No. Now he's using my laptop. And this is on Zoom. We were sharing on Zoom.
you need to get his information.
Right, that's what I mean.
But he
So
doesn't have a
just-
network connection. You know, that's the
Just,
problem,
yeah,
right? Doesn't matter.
Use the phone as a hotspot. so-
okay. I'll tell you what, if I activate my hotspot, can you connect them?
So we're at 600 in the budget. We're on track for $1 million this year. There's indications that it'll stay somewhere around that level.
Yeah, you can close the outlet.
It seems like we
Just
can
X
have
out.
something to this.
What?
I'd be hesitant to
You're
put in $1
hesitant to add
million.
to revenue.
Okay, reduce it then, because, hey, that's my instinct, but I'm just saying that you asked me what Timmy thinks. Well, what
Yeah.
she thinks is what Houlihan thinks, and Houlihan thinks flat.
Well, you'll have a lot of
Just
factors
come
in
up with
2022
Samsung.
going against it, I think. Not that I'm
I
an
agree.
economic
I'm-
prognosticator. Interest rates are gonna go up, the economy may be
I agree with
difficult.
Peter. I would expect less. But that's based
Try
on.
mine. Went three
Less
three
than
machines off.
this
maybe.
year,
Samsung
less than
Galaxy.
The 600
should
we
go
have.
ahead.
No, less
Yeah.
than this year,
It's on.
Okay,
less than the 1 million.
so you got
me try
600, you
this
got
again,
1
so
million,
it's-
are we staying at 600 or
Maybe
somewhere
split the difference there,
between-
750 or something?
Yes.
what's that?
Done.
Okay, fine.
780, you think?
Fine,
Right in the
fine.
middle? 8, Leo?
Okay.
Okay, it looks like it's.
Because I have a feeling that we'll be above. $1
Oh, yeah,
million.
there it is. Yeah.
There it is. Good.
It's really fun swimming.
Well, we still, having putting it towards the fund balance and getting that back.
You have the meeting info?
You know, people will figure out.
Again,
You got the meeting info handy right there?
Oh, yeah, hold on a second. 925. Okay. 2560. 8046.
We're gonna need probably a passcode too.
892204.
Leo, what portion of the planning
You have,
projects money is the?
I have AT&T.
Disconnect.
150.
It's probably gonna
I'm very happy to take that out.
low bars.
We can go directly to that if you want. You're the host.
No. Joel's the host. You can put the X on that patch.com thing. No, not that one. No,
Oh, down
that
here.
one, yeah. That would not be good.
Stop me before I press again. I guess next time I shouldn't do the log me in. I guess I should.
Well, this is a network issue. Joel, this is LightPath? that
That
we're
way you
having-
could just download the files onto the machine so that at least.
Oh, this is
at
to
least
the
we'd
school
be
district.
Okay, here, that wouldn't get the Zoom people on. But, yeah.
It's Optimum, yeah.
You didn't miss anything.
You didn't miss it, but
Fantastic.
I thought we just prolonged the outage for you.
You know, I love a long meeting.
It's a weak connection, so maybe that's why. Need another cell tower. And it shows, yeah, 4 bars there. Use some of that ARPA money to fix the broadband.
Is the meeting still on Zoom?
I believe it is.
That's
through-
what we're trying to do.
Yeah, we're trying to get back on the internet. The meeting's on Zoom. It's just
Yeah,
this
it's
last-
just us
I
here.
feel, yeah, If the meeting's on Zoom, maybe we should move forward and people just
You could,
can't see.
yeah, if you want,
screen.
sure.
Taking a lot of time.
You can say hello. Oh,
Okay.
you need that again?
Yeah.
It's 925-256-08046.
846?
8046.
Okay. Let's
And the
see.
passcode. Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go. So,
Hey, Leo.
so go ahead and click on join with computer audio, but then you're gonna mute it. Right there. Okay, and okay.
Looking
And
good,
stop-
Leo.
I know,
Stop
thank
video.
you.
Oh, no, right there, stop video.
Stop video.
Yeah. And I'll go to screen share screen, and your spreadsheet budget. Click on that.
This one.
Yep. And then share on the bottom right. Okay.
Well done.
Yeah, I needed no help at all.
It's going to be on the quiz at the end.
Yeah, do we want this?
That you can minimize. See the X on the up above,
This
right
one?
there, yeah, click that. Now go back to that screen, hit the little dash line right there, yeah.
So quick, put your additional 200K in the mortgage tax before we lose it again.
Right. So now you've added 552, you are muted. Press all
That's
day.
fine, that's fine.
Okay. So now you've added $552,000 of revenue to the budget. So let's go back to the tax rate schedule
Which is a 72,000 per percent you said before.
for each point.
So,
But one, you can also think about as you lower the tax number, you won't need 72 to change it by 1 point with each successive drop. So we moved it from 13% to 5.34%. Let's go to the tax cap. You're now over the tax cap limit by $224,000, of which 240 comes from the town tax line.
That's a lot better.
Right.
not better than the 790. that we had in there.
Correct. So I think we're done with the revenue schedule. And there's a heck of a lot of lines on the expense side, and I've taken up a lot of time already. I don't know if you guys want to go through each line, but I would, the largest item in here that I think we might want to tackle at this stage is
On the planning, isn't it?
correct. Right here. It's on the planning consultant. I put this number into planning projects. This 160 is really 159.5 for the estimate for the master plan consultant and related expenses. Last year, as I had said earlier, we sold the Golden's Bridge Community House for about $473,000. Those proceeds went directly into the fund balance, benefited the fund balance by $473,000. The idea was that a portion of those sales proceeds would cover the master plan expenditures over the next year or so. I put this number here so that the board can make the final decision We have money in the fund balance to cover these expenses. If we don't put this expense in the fund, in the budget for this year, and those expenses take place this year or in 2022, the impact would be that you would be reducing the fund balance by that amount of expense. And that would be fine if you just consider that you've injected the money to cover into the fund balance, and now you're subtracting it out. So you're net zero. If you put it in the fund balance here, you're increasing the taxes by the 160. And therefore, by definition, you're increasing the tax to the residents. So you may consider that that's an unnecessary burden to bear because you already have the money.
I had always seen the money from the community house as being a way of ensuring that there was sufficient money to see the comprehensive plan through to the end. I'm aware it's expensive, but it always has been expensive and it always will be expensive, and we need to do it.
Yeah, we were gonna virtually cordon that off.
Yes,
You
that's
know,
what I want to do.
Even if we don't have an actual, separate account for it, we were gonna.
Oh, yeah,
Treat it that way.
the cash itself is segregated.
Okay, so, yeah, I would say take that out because that whole thing should be considered together, not as a tax increase. And also, I mean, I would continue to think about that total amount as segregated for the time being, because it's not out of the question and maybe quite likely that you finish the planning process and you have then a zoning exercise to go through, which would be additional costs. So I think we
Yeah, so
should
the full amount
stay on track
is, the
with
full
that.
amount is segregated and
Right.
we're keeping track of the expenditures.
Yeah, I
that
would
are
rather
coming
see
in
this
and-
come
and
out and
diminishing
then
that
just come out
balance.
of the
But if we cordon off that 473 and we leave it there with that expectation that that's going to see us through the comprehensive plan process, but we leave this 160 in for now, at this stage, at the requested budget stage, maybe not at the preliminary. But if we can put it in here, that just helps us increase our reserves.
Yes.
Yes, but I don't
Yes.
I don't think there's a particular need to do that.
There's always
All right.
a need to do that,
Okay.
in my opinion.
But that is why I put it in
But you're
here,
right.
so that you can make
Not the
you can make the
17%.
decision so that it doesn't get lost by not including it. Because I did explain what our fund balances are, and what I think they may be.
Yeah.
By not including it, you've made the decision to decrease your fund balance by that amount. And that's fine, because the two transactions are linked, but I did want to just make sure that you were making that decision.
So you want to take that out and make it zero just for budgetary purposes? Okay.
yes.
Yes.
So that all
Understood.
the transactions are going in and out of the fund balance, because.
And at the end of the day, we will know exactly how much this comprehensive plan has cost us
Okay.
and what we've got for
I
it.
think
I
it's
can get
actually-
behind that reasoning for sure.
Yeah, I
And
think
that's-
actually putting it here can confuse things
Mhm.
in some respects.
Okay.
And the expenditures, the total expenditures,
Should agree.
the total expenditure is supposed to be over, we're looking at a 2-year period, right?
Yes.
Right, and that leaves me, I don't know if it's gonna be 159.5. I mean, that was, just a number. It may start later in the year and never get to that number. The study may start later.
The steering committee is supposed to, we're going into RFP
Yes.
time, right? So we'll have an idea as far
The
as what.
RFP is out, I think.
Yes.
So we may have some kind of idea during this process as to what the first phase of cost may
Well, they
be.
gave us,
The
so
first phase.
they are
yes.
coming to give another update, but they did give us a timeline that we can go back to and look at for what they expected. And then they have a date for when they would hire a consultant. So that whole timeline is based on that. So you can see from there. I can't remember off the top of my head when they had planned to have a consultant by, but whenever that happens, it will start to follow the schedule.
But the RFP responses should be in before we finalize the budget also, I guess, so we have a better idea of what.
We can get an idea what
Yeah.
actual costs will be
Yeah.
during the first phase before the budget process is
Right,
done.
but one way or the other, I mean, that's gonna affect the fund balance, but
It
I don't
shouldn't,
think it should,
it shouldn't be
It
be
doesn't need to
reflected
be
here.
in the
yeah,
timing,
that would,
in
that
the
would
budget-
just.
in the general
okay.
budget. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Keep it where it is. and-
All right, so I decreased this expense by 159.5, leaving the planning projects at 500, which is the same number from last year's budget. So we'll go back to the tax rate schedule. Now the tax rate change from year to year is 3.123. The tax cap, you're slightly over the tax cap by 64,000. So we started off with what, 700 and change?
Yep.
700 change.
So we dropped it down and now you're at 64.
775.
Again, the burden is within the general and highway funds. But maybe that's enough wood to chop in this meeting.
Right.
I think there's a question which we need to address pretty soon, which is, are we content that we can get it down to the tax cap?
Always.
Well, all right.
Are we
but
content?
One of the
Opinion on
things
that.
that we have traditionally
vote.
done in the past is to ensure, is to pass a resolution allowing us to exceed the tax
Oh.
cap.
Oh, right.
To do that, just you have that in our back pocket.
What?
It's a law.
It's a local law, all right.
We passed before we passed a budget, a final budget that we have. to see.
So I am going to propose that we do that. We start that process this evening.
Sure.
Greg has written this law about 500 times, right, Greg?
That's right.
And
And
we
see.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
November.
In fact.
Is that our next meeting, November
You
8th?
didn't? Yeah.
No.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, file.
Sorry.
File.
I need another law.
Save
right?
as, so I know where it's being saved.
Slow down.
Click on documents.
Where is that?
On the right. Or town of
Oh, right
Lewisboro.
here?
Just Click
Sorry,
on town
that
of
was a
Lewisboro.
private joke.
Down-
Wow, it was very funny.
So-
anyway.
Okay, and yeah, just.
All
save
right.
there.
Tell.
I'd like
So
to
at the
propose
top,
a resolution that
Right, save.
Okay.
we,
Set a public hearing.
This way I know
is
where it
that
is,
we
and then
set a
I'll
public
email it back to
hearing
you.
And will you be
on
able to send that to me
a,
then tonight?
yes.
Yes.
on a law which would allow Lewisboro to break the tax cap this year.
And we're setting it for,
Okay, November 8th.
Great.
Have we done this umpteen times and I would say that more than half the times we never use it. but-
Well, can we wait to see where we're at in 2 weeks? Does that affect timing?
No, we do this this is standard procedure. We don't
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah,
break
we
the
don't
tax
have to.
cap. This just allows us to, it's
We don't
like
have to
borrowing
sign.
money. Like you can pass a resolution to borrow the money, but not borrow the money.
I think
This
it's
is pretty
just
standard
a
procedure.
smart way to conduct ourselves. I was reminded of it by Greg the other day. What?
so,
Don't
you
mess
made,
with
you
me.
made a resolution. I second it.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Greg. Can you draft it? Sorry, I just wanted to get that done and it seemed an appropriate moment.
I think,
I have no intention of breaking the tax
And
cap.
that, and that
Right.
number
I
is
like hearing
2.1
that.
is what that number is, 2.1%.
I think it was 3-1,
3
wasn't it?
point.
No, that's what we have now, but the rate, the tax cap,
Yeah, it's roughly
2.1 or so.
2.1%
That's my
increase
question.
over
Okay.
last year's number.
Thanks.
I think I'm done for tonight, right?
Okay, does anybody want to bring up any other subject on the budget in
Can I-
general?
can I exit out?
Yeah, because you just saved it and you didn't make it, yes, so you can
That's
close
not
it out.
gonna break.
There being no
any
further
connection, right?
ideas about the budget for the moment, I would appreciate people thinking
Okay.
of ways that we
Okay.
can reduce it to
Next,
keep it within the cap.
Okay.
Close Zoom
Right here.
meeting.
That's it.
Thanks, Leo.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Leo. That was one of your best performances, sir.
Certainly was a good one, yes.
Should we give him a standing ovation?
Thank you for steering
No.
me through my maiden voyage
When you get
budget.
When again, okay.
Thank you. No, it's all good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, you want? Anytime.
Here we are. Um, I'd like to propose a motion to approve claims. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. I would like to open the meeting to public comment. Does anybody, who signed up for public comments? You can.
Carol Cernak.
So, Carol Cernak, South Salem, New York. Speaking of the budget issues, I do have a concern about the cemetery salt dome separation at a budget of $5,000. Not quite sure how that's going to be met or how that's been planned or advised by, since it's newly fresh dirt and stone. I'm not sure it's stable enough to sustain plantings. And where that $5,000 comes from. The other issue is the highway department. How did they come up with the $55,000 for mulch? And does that include the mulch and the timber that's currently existing, or is that just for the 2022 budget? I've got lots of FOIL requests out to Janet, and I appreciate your help on that. It just, the whole thing just doesn't make sense to me. Let's see. I do want to speak to the fact that I have been the manager, along with my husband, at Farview Farm for 31 years. I do represent myself as a resident and also the family, the Wallace family. I am very concerned about the liability that the mulch and the timber represents to the town of Lewisboro, and how that's going to be managed. I do not know how you're going to put out an RFP to manage that issue over there without knowing the scope of the work. Do you know the cubic yards, or is it the square cube, whatever it is? Yeah, I mean, I think it's far outweighs what our highway superintendent has stated it is, and if that's the case, it falls under different management and restrictions. I would like to share with you a couple aerial photos that taken in 2015 of Farview Farm and the Salt Dome facility, which sits over here. This is Farview Farm. This is Echo Farm, Lake Truesdale. You could see the small pile of mulch that's there. This is before Hickory Homes got involved. I would also like to know how long Hickory Homes has been involved with this process. There's no timber there. It's only a small mulch pile.
That's 2015, you said?
2015. And I have lots more pictures I can share if anybody would like. Here's another picture that shows a more close-up of the salt dome and the mulch pile. They had not built up that gravel item 4 spot where the timber now sits, that huge pile of timber. This is all a liability to the town of Lewisboro. The Wallace family retains right of entry to the nature preserve. It's a 4.5 acre piece of land that sits between Route 35 and the Salt Dome property. They are not beyond consulting the Nature Conservancy for measures to correct this issue because of wetlands pollution and runoff. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Who's next?
Next, I'm asking Peter Cipriano.
Good evening, members of the town board. I'm Peter Cipriano from Copia. I'm the minority stakeholder. She's the majority stakeholder. All right, this is gonna be scripted because I don't want to go too off task. Great job with all the budget presentations. The budget for the most part seems to be transparent. However, the planning board department fees to the consulting firm is not currently transparent. And it seems as the RFP in these regards regularly is already decided, as there are 2 to 3 firms to choose from, and they just refer work to each other as consultants for other towns. It would be nice to have a revenue line item for the planning board more in line with the building department's revenue line. Supervisor Parsons makes a good point, and congratulations on making the Hall of Fame, the Welsh Hall of Fame. You are notorious. You are.
I want to turn Columbus Day into St. David's Day.
You might have a hard time doing that. Sponsorships from local businesses are incredibly important and can be obtained. The town has to get behind Dane and other department heads on this by helping businesses. Taking advantage of them when they need to make improvements by charging them exorbitant building and planning fees does not help this cause. We cannot refinance our mortgage while your planning board holds up our CO. That is thousands of dollars we could save, part of which could have been potential to help the town. We think we speak on behalf of most businesses in this town and would like to see more dialogue happen between us. We help with sales tax revenue. We support many local causes. We pay towards the commercial property tax base. And for us and many other small business owners, Jennifer and I live and work here. Local businesses deserve better. It would behoove you to encourage local business to come and to be able to grow and expand to help offset the taxes. Do not stifle us and encourage us to look for greener pastures. Embrace a future with businesses being encouraged. Please, 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 as you work on this budget, we implore you to really pay attention to the planning board, consulting engineering firm, and the steering committee, as a lack of business support will continue to erode tax revenues and support for this town. And I think the portion of the monies from the community house sale may be enough for a true master plan, but may not be enough to see it through completion. So that support of local businesses might help that. And by the way, we have been having Optum issues for months since they started putting new poles in. We went mobile at the nursery to check people out, and we lose service, we lose delivery fees, we lose addresses, we lose phone numbers, and it's constant, and it's kind of getting annoying.
We're very well aware of that.
That we live in the twilight zone up here, and we shouldn't. All right, so we should have good services, but you guys do a great job, and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. We have Simone O'Connor. I'm asking you to unmute.
Good evening. Can you hear?
Yes, we can.
Okay, Simone from Vista. We've done a lot of listening to all of the Oak Ridge water issues that will be resolved with grants and hopes and tap dancing, and yet they continue. I've not spoken about this issue for well over 6 meetings in my attempt to be supportive of everything Council Member Gonsalves has stated and continues to believe will happen regarding helping the Oak Ridge citizens of Lewisboro and their unsafe, poor drinking water. And after all of these months and years, there's still been no solution and people continue to suffer. The situation is harmful, shameful, and way past the time of excuses. This board has not gotten it done. That's a fact. And I'm not feeling that hopeful that it will be corrected if monies don't come through. With all of the talk of being the voice for the voiceless, I'd like to know how loud we need to scream to help these people at Oak Ridge to be heard. My 83-year-old mother had to wait for me to come over and read the 2-page news that was taped on the bottom of her mailbox that talked about high levels of chemicals in the water recently, and that they've been proven to cause cancer in humans and animals. And that's the reality of the situation without any tap dancing involved. On top of that, the town supervisor spoke about not being serious, but spoke about walking into a school with a shotgun And I guess people should know when they listen to this meeting that they've taken away our school resource officer, and it has not been publicized, and that would be there to protect our children. I would just like safe drinking water for everyone. I would like our kids to be protected. I think we can come together with this. We need to do better. Thank you.
Can I address the Oak Ridge issue real quick? Just to
Well,
respond.
is there somebody else who wants to speak?
Okay, okay.
Okay, thank you, Simone. And next, I'm asking Marissa Beatty.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, Marissa.
Hi, Tony. Thanks for touching base on Oak Ridge earlier. I am going to piggyback off Simone. Last week we had pink water, which was an issue, and I got in touch with you, and I got an answer from you, and you had a solution of, well, we have another object that we can order, and it's only going to cost $10,000, and that's great, and we're going to be proactive, and we're going to order it. But the bottom line is that to you, it's only $10,000. It's a $10,000 computer equipment that will help with my discolored water. The bottom line is that you still need a person to man the computer because VRI is not doing that job. If there was somebody manning who was in charge of this, they would have known that the pink water was an issue. This is an ongoing issue. When you talk about your PFAS and your TTHMs, this isn't going to solve you. That's a separate issue than the chemicals that are coming into our water. We have a bad system. We have bad wells. We really don't still know what's going on because we haven't gotten an independent engineering study. We're still fully believing everything that VRI and Delaware Engineering are saying, and that's unacceptable. I currently there's 3 units in my one building that I live in, and I'm currently the only person occupying my unit in the building. There's one that's for sale for over $450,000, and there's one that's for rent for $4,100. People are not going to come knocking on Oak Ridge's door to live here when we have bad water. You're talking about how we're making all of this money on mortgage tax. People aren't going to buy in this area if we have bad water at Meadow Pond Elementary School and at Oak Ridge, in the closest thing to affordable housing that Lewisboro has. It is a disgrace. And you all sit up there and you give us solutions. Nobody really knows what's going on. You talk over each other, and it's really sad for us here. I want everybody who's here listening in to remember this when it comes time for election, because Tony is not the only person up there on that board that can do this job. And he's the only person that has spent any time dealing with Oak Ridge. You have Dan, who is the environmentalist, who hasn't done anything. You have Rich, who sat on the planning board when all of this was happening. You have a future Mary Shaw, who wants to be a part of this, who sat on the CAC, and she was ignored as well. This is unacceptable. You people need to get your act together, and your sales tax in the stores isn't going to go up with a mask mandate when we're the only place in Westchester that has a mask mandate. Nobody shops local anymore. We're all going to Ridgefield and to New Canaan and every other town, Mount Kisco, Katona, everywhere else but Lewisboro, and that's pathetic. You should be ashamed of yourselves.
All right, thank you, Marissa. Next.
Budget proposals that have been put forward by our various departments. As in prior years, I've been following them, and it just seems like every year our department heads are really they're giving us 500% to give the residents what they need and what they want. And every year they do it on a shoestring budget. And my hat's off to Peter, Chief Alfano, Dana, and Cindy for doing this year after year. I've been up here almost 29 years, and I have to say, my family has benefited tremendously from the programs from the time my children were very young up until now. I was watching a Parks and Rec meeting recently where their budget was being discussed. And one of the things I did want to bring before the board was a question about I know that we've paid the school district rent for Lewisboro Elementary School, but one of the things that was mentioned during the advisory council meeting was that I believe as of last year, I don't think it happened more than 1 or 2 years, we're also paying to have outside maintenance done in the way of lawn mowing, mowing the lawns and taking the snow away. So I was just wondering if that was something that used to be in the monthly fee or however the district was charging us, or if this is something new. Again, let's support our departments. They do the best they can with what they have, and they definitely need more money and they definitely need more personnel. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. And that's it, Peter.
Okay, I'd like to poll the board, and I'd like to.
Actually, before that.
Actually, I've got to announce when our next meeting is.
Well, before you do that, I did receive a message from someone who couldn't make the public comment because he's got to get up very early tomorrow morning and asked if I could read it.
Okay.
Is that okay? Okay. So let me
It
pull that
depends
up
how
here.
long it is.
It looked pretty long, so just bear with me. So this is from the playground committee, and specifically Nicholas Bugensky wrote this on behalf of the committee. My name is Nick Lung Bugensky, and I reside in Lewisboro Hamlet. I was inspired to get involved in the Lewisboro Town Park Playground Improvement Committee by the amazing leadership and tireless efforts of Valerie Cancro. She asked me to speak tonight on behalf of our coalition of committed playground volunteers. We wanted to bring to everyone's attention to 2 amazing fundraising events happening this weekend on 10/16, that's Saturday. The first annual Cars in the Park from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. It's a car show. 10 judging categories: baked goods, coffee from Lily's Deli, bragging rights, and awards. The first annual Oktoberfest in the park from 2 to 7 p.m. Some features include live music, Lions Club Barbecue, Captain Lawrence Beer, Hard Scrabble Cider, Idlewild German Pretzels, Ward Boards Cornhole Tournament, and so many more amazing local craft vendors. We are watching the weather very closely and will inform the community on Facebook and Instagram by Friday midday if the rain date of 10/17, which is Sunday, will be used as planned. You may have seen we are close to hitting our $100,000 phase 1 goal, but we are not there yet. We hope everyone can come out for the fun of this fundraiser. We want to thank this entire Lewisboro community for its tremendous ongoing support. We especially wanted to thank our town board Parks and Recreation liaison, Tony Gonsalves, as well as Dana Makelam, who is our amazing Parks and Rec superintendent, as well as all our officials that have tirelessly and continue to make this playground possible for the play of all our children. Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to say in polling the board?
So just an update on Oak Ridge. So there was a notice that went out yesterday by VRI regarding the second quarter health department sampling of the water. So keep in mind that for the PFAS chemicals, New York State lowered the max contaminant level from 70 parts per trillion to 10 parts per trillion last August. They required all public water districts to test for this chemical beginning Q1 of this year. So anytime we exceed that 10 parts per trillion, it is required that a notice go out. Usually I wasn't available yesterday, but usually I like to review the notice and get an email blast out to the community. That email blast went out today explaining and giving more background as to why that notice was issued. Now, it is a notice for Q2 testing, and the reason for the delay is because when you test, and the test was done June 4th, if there is any of the wells test above that 10 parts per trillion, within 30 days, you have to do another test. And it takes about 30 days to get the results of each. So for the first test, 30 days, second test, 30 days, that's 60 days. The notification that goes out needs to be reviewed by the Westchester County Department of Health. They review it, they then send it to the state for their review before it gets publicized. The direction to go ahead and publicize it was provided to VRI on Friday, which is why they put the notice out on Monday. So I just wanted to explain that because people were questioning, where did this come from? So as long as we have this limit of 10 parts per trillion, and as long as any of the wells test above that, a notice will be, basically it's a violation notice from the health department, will be issued every quarter that happens. The water that leaves the plant is below the 10 parts per trillion. So until we get this, the PFAS mitigation plan in place, with the funding that we talked about earlier, we will always have, as long as we exceed that MCL, the max contaminant level, we will always receive these notices from the health department. So that's just a part of the process. And so I just want to make that clear to everyone out there. Thank you very much.
Jane.
So I sadly want to just give out our condolences to the Kaplan family. Meg is a PrAC member, and they're a prominent family in town, and the passing of their child, Emily, is tragic. And they were able to raise a lot of money in just one day from the community. And so for that, I'm grateful. But I just want to take a minute to recognize Emily's life. And I just wanted to take that time to say that and send our condolences to the Kaplan family. We've had some really successful events happening over the last couple of weeks here. So there was an historical tea party hosted by Maureen Cole that was very well attended. And the Lewisboro Library Trust also did an event at Oldfield Preserve around ferns. And it was an educational event, and people got to leave with ferns and learned how to plant them in their yards. And so that was a very successful event. And then there was the first Rocktoberfest over at Oak Ridge, and that was a nice way to get the community out. And it's Fire Safety Month. And so I want to thank all of our fire departments for holding their open houses on Saturday, this Saturday past. They do a nice job. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was something that Tony already mentioned, but it's worth mentioning again, that this Saturday, the town park is going to be an exciting place to be if it's not raining. And if it's Sunday, then that'll be the day it's an exciting place to be, for the car show from 8 to 11 a.m. and Oktoberfest from 2 to 7 p.m. So we look forward to all of that.
Rick.
Thank you. I think Golden's Bridge has their open house. I think that's this Saturday, I believe.
It is. Yep.
Thanks, Jana. So look forward to that.
Golden's Bridge Fire Department.
Yes. What did I say?
Golden's Bridge.
Oh, Golden's Bridge Fire Department. Yes, that's what I meant. Yes. I'm committed during the budget process to make sure, unless there's some unforeseeable issue, make sure we bring that within the cap or better. I think the mask mandate has, I think, been successful as far as bringing attention, and has brought the case count down, I believe. But I think we should have it targeted that it ends by Halloween, which would be a perfect time, maybe, if not before. Our cases are down to 19, and I appreciate the supervisor's leadership on this. And I think that it's done what it needs to, and we should target to end that by the end of this month. Last thing, as far as what the town does for you, it's a little thing, or maybe a big thing. And in driving across town, I've been here for 23 years. And when you leave South Salem and go across the Golden's Bridge, one of the things that historically has bothered me is you can't stay on a cell phone call. And I've noticed in the last week or so, I've been able to hold on to a phone call from Golden's Bridge across town into South Salem. And that's a direct result of the hard work of people like Tony sitting next to me, a tangible infrastructure and quality of life improvement, direct result of his hard work in working with our utilities to improve things in town. And just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Dan.
Not much, but just thanking the staff for their hard work on the budgets. And Dana, important point about working through COVID, especially Parks and Rec, but others as well. I'm thankful Tony, your hard work on the water systems up in Oak Ridge. I understand the frustration. These are big projects and a lot of dollars that are going to flow to it, and understand that the PFAS problem is a national problem, that it's everywhere, and there will be more discoveries coming up, and it's a scary thing. There will be lots of lawsuits and all that. So it's good that things are moving ahead for Oak Ridge. They're going to have the best system you can have in terms of addressing that. So let's see if that's moving ahead. And lastly, just to note that when we put out the call for people to help out with the sustainability committee work, like 7 people responded. So that was nice. They're all going to show up and see what it's about the next meeting. So good fun.
I should apologize for my shotgun comment. Shakespeare would have had a really difficult time
Don't blame it on Shakespeare.
putting together his plays with the restrictions on language we're now endorsing.
We are not in a play, sir.
No, but we write them still, I hope. Secondly, the next town board meeting will be on Monday, October the 25th, 2021 at 7:30 at the Lewisboro Library. And finally, I would like to thank Leo for doing an excellent job on presenting a budget this evening.
Very good job, Leo.
Thank you, Leo.
Very much. Very
I'd
detailed.
like to adjourn to executive session.
To discuss,
To
to
discuss.
discuss what?
Oh, to discuss potential personnel, individual personnel moves in the police department.
Second.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.